As the family settled for the next vid, some of the more curious primarchs decided to look through the multiple chests of the vids that were now recovered from the massive pile of as of yet unwatched vids. They all had the messages for Dad title, but were sorted into different categories. There was the just messages for Dad ones, but then there were extras, wife tales, and some other menial unlabeled ones. Which one should we even watch next? Inquired Lorgar, being drawn to a particular vid covered in Kolchak script. How about just continuing on with the main series? We don't know enough about the situation to watch an extra just yet, I think. Added on Magnus, holding up the next vid even as a Mechondrite of Muggos Lame gently took it from him. I might as well. Who even knows why we would look at a bloody wife tale? It just sounds like a cheap pornocell dash. Too much information, son. Please allow me to keep at least that part of my sanity. Father, are you not some 40,000 years old? Asked Rogel even as the Emperor turned to face him. Yes, that would be about right, Rogel, why do you ask? Considering the era when you were born, wouldn't witnessing intercourse between your son and his wife be considered relatively norm dash? No. That is final. Imperial decree on the spot, you are not allowed to mention that ever again. Father. The Khan spoke up, gaining the Emperor's attention. I would suggest that you do not visit Kogaris while I am there. Period. I have absolutely zero issues with that. Meanwhile, Fulgrim just gave Jagatai a look, which was returned. Magnus looked to both of them, all three coming to the same conclusion, and soon, all three nodded to each other. All understood. It was a secret they would take to their graves with them. Unless, of course. Father? Are you listening? What did you ask, son? Nothing, just wanted to check something. Can we just please watch the vid? The anticipation is killing me. Began Robut even as he turned to a surprisingly impatient-looking Sanguinius. And same with Sanguinius apparently. Yes, it damn well is. Spoke the angel. I am far too anxious and keen to see what happens to just sit here idly, twiddling my thumbs at nothing. So that's where all the bad emotions went. You say something, father? Tentatively asked Magnus even as the Emperor quickly waved a hand at him, showing that he was fine. Fine. Spoke the Emperor. Muggos, play it. Unfortunately, the vid they chose to view was only a few seconds long and detailed Aegidius trying to say hello, but he ended up dropping the holo recorder, which caused the vid to show a quick crack on the screen before shutting off. Robut could only pinch the bridge of his nose, a deep sigh escaping him. The antics of his son were different, to say the least. Here he thought that Ildari were graceful, deliberate in their actions and words. His son may be half Ildari, but still. He expected something. He cared about him, of course, but he still felt as if Aegidius wasn't the best. Well. That was a quick one. Fulgrim quipped from the other side of the viewing room. I don't know how he does it. Robut answered, not looking at the screen. I really don't. It's exceptionally hard for a holo recorder to break in the hands of a 7-year-old. Robut, believe me when I say this, a 7-year-old can cause a lot of trouble. Magnus spoke up, a faraway look in his eye. Back on Kogaris they compare the youngest children to drunk angry midgets. Fulgrim shuddered, knowingly grateful that he wouldn't have to deal with that. At this point, the Emperor glanced at the three of them, his suspicion building from the last few vids. Do you three have something you need to tell me? The poker faces of the three would have impressed him, if he didn't already know they were hiding something from him. He could have and would have used his own abilities to force the information from them, but he was trying to be a better father to them. So forcing it out wouldn't be appropriate, at this time. Not at the moment, father. Magnus answered, not looking at the Emperor. Jagatai shrugged, Kogaris has many children and I have dealt with them on numerous occasions. He answered honestly. Technically, we are all fathers, you know. Added on Fulgrim. Astaroths being our gene sons and all that. The Emperor looked at Fulgrim. He had a sneaking suspicion that all three of them were hiding something very big from him. And knowing how both Jagatai and Fulgrim could both be very eloquent without really saying at all. Fulgrim looked at Jagatai, desperation evident on his features. Jagatai glanced at Magnus, lifting an eyebrow even as Magnus recoiled and quickly shook his head even as the Emperor looked at him again. Then Magnus had a brilliant idea. He looked at Rogel, and gave him the psychic equivalent of a nudge. Rogel looked at Magnus even as he lifted an eyebrow, and Magnus moved his head suggestively while sending him a mental request for a later personal meeting. The Emperor now looked at Rogel even as Rogel gave a curt nod in Magnus' direction, and the Master of Mankind recoiled in shock. His train of thought was violently derailed. 204.M42, Makraj, Aegidius's room. The VID started up suddenly, but what was strange was how Aegidius wasn't paying attention to the screen at all. Suddenly, it all made sense. On screen, Aegidius seemed to be writing on some parchment, face scrunched up and his tongue sticking out of his mouth slightly as he worked. His pen quickly moved, every now and then he would scratch at his hair, idly grabbing and pulling a particular strand that just happened to curl more than the rest. Robert noticed something, however. For how clumsy his son appeared to be while, living. Writing appeared not to be an issue, however. The writing utensil that he was using was flowing gracefully along the parchment as if it was a leaf falling in the autumn times of Makraj. Ent Desha, tel Ildari Shray tel Ishal Sianan run. Sianan ar Shuranyof hay or Ilane, Aegidius muttered to himself as he wrote. He sighed, stupid propaganda lines. Tutors making me write about how great the Ildari Empire was. Wish I didn't have to learn Ildari, High Gothic is so much easier. Robert, wait a moment, oh come on. Really? Corvus, what is it? Robert, those lines he's writing are basically saying about how great the Eldar are and how it's their divine right to conquer the galaxy. Noticeable sounds of anger from Fukin and Jagatai. Magnus, of course they are. Of fucking course they are. Emperor, divine right, my ass. They had their chance and they fucked it all up. Hope they aren't trying to make him become an Eldar supremacist. Robert, do you honestly think I would let them? Really hope I don't have to meet with a tutor today. They're always so stuffy. Stupid banana heads. Snickers from the family. Oh. Aegidius suddenly realized as a tiny beep alerted him to the holocam apparently having low battery. Oh, it turned on. He reached over to most likely turn it off, but couldn't quite reach it. Oh, some ADH al drukari hor dash. He got up and put one knee on his desk. Apparently though, he forgot about the very slippery plastic flimsies that he was writing on. Ah! He screamed as he slid backwards and landed straight on his behind even as the plastic flimsies were sent flying, gently fluttering toward Aegidius like leaves. Guilliman, wait. Pause. The VID paused. Guilliman, reverse, 2 seconds. The VID reversed. On the screen there was a clear shot of the plastic flimsy and what Aegidius was writing. Guilliman, oh you got to be kidding me, furiously rubs eyes. Sanguinius, what is the matter? It looks like fine Ildari to me. Guilliman, he mixed up the words. Lorgar, which ones? Emperor, all of them. Every single one. Robert, even the spelling is off. Everything is off. I'm not sure how he did it, but well, Ildari is notoriously complex, even for me. So, it's not so bad. Magnus, I speak it well enough. Robert, yes, but you had more time than me and, actually, how did you learn? Magnus, sudden far away and, frightened look, practice. A lot of practice. Lorgar, are those drawings next to the runes? Ferris, looks like Marines shooting at Tyranids. Fulgrim, he's quite flamboyant with the blood. Angren, I see nothing wrong with portraying reality. Magnus, I don't think that was being flamboyant. Fulgrim, what then? Magnus, I think he might have just spilled a container of ink. Robert, of course he did. Aegidius groaned from the floor again, then let out a whoop of joy, yes. Didn't lose a tooth. Robert, face palming. After a few seconds, he tried to get up, only to yelp in pain. Damn it. I think I broke something again. Guilliman, language young man. Sanguinius, he just broke a bone and you're focused on his language. Robert, okay, you have a point but dash. Corvus, just admit it. Robot, fine. Ah, that's my tailbone. Aegidius yelled out from the floor. Soon, the door to his room was kicked open from off-screen, the sound of heavy power armor and frantic steps, and soon a custodes with the red of the companions was on screen. My liege. What happened to you now? Shield Captain Puppanius demanded. Emperor, what? What the actual? Leman, what te fuck? Aegidius, from the floor, groaned. I'm sorry. I saw my recorder turned on, and I tried to reach and well. Now I broke my tailbone. Again, no sign of the boy crying or even being in pain from having a broken bone. The custodes sighed as he gingerly picked up the tiny boy and gently held him in his arms. You just can't seem to keep yourself from getting hurt, can you? Just last week that large scrape on your cheek healed up. Your nose finally fixed itself and now you have a broken tailbone. Robot, how much does he break? Mort Arian, sounds like it's nearly weekly. Daily are scrapes. Robot, this won't negatively affect him, will it? Mort Arian, still not a Zeno specialist, so. I dunno. A human kid? I'd say he's probably lacking in calcium and should go on a special diet to help fortify their bodies so they won't be stunted in growth and / or suffer from certain diseases and cancers later on. Aegidius grumbled, settling in Puppanius's arms and looking comically small compared to him. I don't mean to. Puppanius sighed, looking down at the little boy and sternly admonishing him with, I know actual Marines and custodes who have experienced less than you have. A young boy like you shouldn't be suffering like this, we will help you overcome this enigma of your life in time. A boy of only 7 shouldn't be having to see the apothecary this often. Robot, wait, he's only 7 years old. Magnus, yeah, that makes sense. He does still have that baby fat around his cheeks and jawline, still has that bounce to himself, kinda short and lanky still. Corvus, how do you know that? Magnus, from a book. I read a lot. Rogel, this is true. Magnus's personal quarters are actually the library. Perturabo, that's technically true. Corvus, this is still suspicious as all hell, you know. Mort Arian, I agree. What are you hiding, witch? Magnus, I am hiding nothing. I just read a lot. All of you are just suspicious for no reason. Leman, who cares? The nerd reads. Jagatai, I recommend we move on and watch the VID. Ferris, I agree, just move on. Suspicious grumbling. Aegidius crossed his arms over his chest, a big frown on his face as he thought over everything Puppy told him. It wasn't his fault. It was just so unfair. How long is this one going to last? I am not an apothecary, my liege. But I estimate 3 weeks, my liege, and you won't be able to sit. Emperor, did the custodes just call him his liege? Are you kidding me? Groaned Aegidius. This suux. Well, maybe next time you will be more careful, my liege. I'm trying. Harumphed Aegidius even as Puppanius began carrying him off screen. Things just kinda happen, puppy. Puppanius, my liege. Things just happen. I don't mean it to, but I just get hurt and there isn't really much I can do about it. I just let myself fall, cause stopping it usually means more broken bones or more damage. He puffed his cheeks in anger, looking like a slightly miffed puppy who lost his favorite toy. Robot, no. No. Jagatai, I can feel it. Magnus, the power it is too strong. Fulgrim, I am powerless to it. Angren, what the hell is wrong with all of you? Robot, he's just too cute. Magnus, it is a weakness. I cannot best it. Leman, all he's doing is making eyes and puffing his cheeks, all of yet are on something dash. Fulgrim, you just don't understand. He's too adorable. Secret Club snickering. But you are always there for me at least. The family saw the edges of a smile even as Aegidius was carried off. We are your companions, my liege. Of course we are. Emperor, Constantine. Get your gold-plated rear end in here right now. At this point, no one was on the VID any longer, and after Mugoslame confirmed there was nothing left, it was shut off. A few seconds, and the Captain General and his host barged into the room, coming before their emperor. The Captain General, Konstantin Valder, stepped forward to the emperor. "My emperor! What is it you require?" The emperor violently pointed at the vid. "The fuck, Konstantin? Am I missing something, my emperor?" The emperor looked back at the screen, only to notice that it was black. "Muggos! Turn the damn thing back on again. Show him the custodes." The poor Muggos fiddled around with the projector as he desperately hurried to set it up again, somehow managing to do so only in seconds, and soon the loop of the custodes calling Aegidius my liege was playing. "Explain!" demanded the emperor, looking completely serious. My liege, is that an Eldari human hybrid?" Valder asked, confused. "What? Yes, not the damned point. Why are you calling it your liege?" "Hey!" piped up Robut. "Aegidius is a he, not an it." "Details?" explained Konstantin. "What do you mean details? He is your grandson." Robut kept popping up, willing to defend his not-born-yet son. "You know what I mean. Primarch Guilliman. You have a son?" asked one of the other companions in the room. Another clapped, for some reason, while putting his flamer away. "Again, details for later." "Konstantin, what in the ever-loving fuck are you doing bowing to him?" Sire." "What? I presume that like the TDS series, these are from the future." Trying to bring back reason, Valder continued. "Yeah, what about? You mixed up the timelines again, sire." "Oh, for fuck's dash. It happens, sire." "No. No, it fucking isn't. Not to anyone half competent anyway," snickered Magnus even as the emperor whirled on him. "Is that a challenge, sonny?" "Not a challenge, if I know I'm going to slaughter you before you have a chance," Magnus quipped. The silent custodes covered the part of his helmet where his mouth would be, looking between the two of them. "Just like you did the webway." Some of the present custodes recoiled in shock even as Conrad let out a wheeze of laughter. "I did not do that yet, okay?" yelled back Magnus in his defense. "How about breaking all of my edicts?" "And what do you mean by yet?" Conrad now outright laughed as Magnus desperately attempted to defend himself. "You know why I broke them. Then how about making a deal with an intergalactic tumor?" "All right. Enough please." "Yes, enough please. Magnus is almost on literal fire," spoke up Corvus. "And Conrad is starting to get a regular human shade of skin from all of the laughter," pointed out Sanguinius. "I am not done yet." "So, are we dismissed?" Konstantin asked, looking back to the emperor, who just waved them off. While leaving, Flamer Custodes turned around, looked toward Rogel and waved at him. Rogel nodded and gave a wave and slight smile back as he left. The emperor gave him a look, and they promptly ignored the issue for now. "So how about we watch more vids?" the emperor supplied, hoping to ignore his blunder and hoping the secret doesn't get out. "Hold on. So you can criticize me but I can't even fire back?" yelled Magnus. "Sure sonny. Just try, daddy has a lot more where that came from." The last of the custodes leaving the room froze and turned around in absolute shock from the words that just came from the emperor's mouth. "Oh. Let the personality slip a bit too much. Sorry about that, you can just go." The silent custodes paused, then shook his head and left with the others, done with his father's nonsense for today. All the while, Muggos Lame finally found the next vid. "Shall I play it, Omnis Saya?" The emperor merely waved a hand at him, indicating that he should, and soon the vid began to play. 204.M42, Macraj, War Room. Guilliman, wait, that's not his room. Aegidius was sitting in a rigid chair, facing the hollow recorder. A scowl on his face even as the very recognizable form of Cato Sicarius stood next to him. "Explain, my liege," came a surprisingly strict voice from the captain. "Guilliman, what?" "Mortarion, he is different." "Sanguinius, that voice threw me off for a second." Aegidius sighed before bowing his head in apparent shame. "Dad, don't be mad at me please. I just wanted to see what was going on." "Guilliman, see what was going on? What does he mean? Did he sneak out of the fortress or?" Sanguinius, watch and we find out, brother. Aegidius looked up toward Sicarius with a guilty look even as the captain nodded. I snuck into the war room. Gilliman, you what young man? Sicarius made a hand motion, as if there was more to be said. Aegidius scowled, come on. Can I please not do this? My tailbone. It hurts, he weakly whined. That's not true and you know it. Say it. Sicarius quickly responded, cutting off the act from the child. Fine. I snuck into the war room and I made Uncle Lehman's fur cloak catch on fire. And Uncle Fukin's favorite mug lost its handle. And Uncle Conrad may have accidentally gone blind after I shone too brightly when they found me. Lehman, you're fucking what, kiddo? Magnus, chokes on drink of water. Fukin, I forgive you, little mutant nephew. Conrad, goodness gracious me, this reality can't possibly be real, can it? Sanguinius, what? Conrad, what did you just say? And why are you there? Conrad, I don't know and I don't want to know. Robert, how? How is my son, a little whirlwind of destruction? Rogel, if he was not so physically similar to you, brother, I would suggest that he is in fact, Perturabo's son. Conrad, asshole wheeze. Perturabo, okay, how about you go and couple with a cactus? Visible shock and pause. Rogel, I shall do this. Emperor, no Rogel. Don't actually do it, damn it. Rogel, cacti are mighty natural fortifications, surely there is much to be learned from them. And what else? Sicarius prodded, wanting him to admit to the final part. Aegidius glanced at the screen, then back to Sicarius, then back and forth. Please don't make me say it. Just get it over with. Silence, then a sigh from the child as he mentally fortified himself, the chair around him slowly getting covered with frost and soon, full on ice crystals. I'm sorry that I broke the war table and summoned a daemon into the room. Magnus, what the actual fuck? Rogel, the table is meant to be leaned on by potentially hundreds of regular human beings. Gilliman, for once the obviousness is actually useful. How, by all the marble on Macrage, did he break a war table, summon a daemon, and how is ice forming all over him? Emperor, the ice part is merely his psychic anger being pent up and expressed, even as only a partial Ildari his psychic potential is most likely massive. Summoning a daemon though? Lorgar, not even I know where to begin. Magnus, me neither. Gilliman, this is just getting worse and worse for the poor boy. Angren, sometimes I can't even tell if you care or just act like it for the damn nobility of it all. Gilliman, I am beyond offended you would actually think that about me. I swear that it's real, brother, I'm just still overwhelmed is all. Jagatai, I recall the young boy saying something about daemons on Macrage last time. And with how he reacts when uncomfortable, I can see how. Horus, Imperium Secundus being active would also mean far smaller borders. Mort Arian, it's all just going to hell. Conrad, thinks for a bit, yeah, everything really is going to shit. How does this make you feel? Looking directly at the Emperor. Emperor, honestly. Fucking terrible. I mean, my custodes have abandoned me, the entire Imperium is falling apart and my grandson is a complete and utter klutz. Gilliman, I can't even complain about that. Emperor, not to fucking mention that apparently a daemon just manifested itself in the war room. Thank goodness that there were Primarchs there to protect him. Imagine what would have happened. Robert, father, please just don't. I don't want to imagine that. Magnus, depends on the daemon to be fully truthful, but if it destroyed the war table. Lehman, bugger must have been massive. And that's why I'm personally sending this message to our father, so he can make sure you don't do something like this again. Sicarius ground out to Aegidius, crossing his arms over his chest plate and looking down at the child. And right when we got word back that your mother is coming back to planet soon. Wait, no. No, you can tell Dad. I can take the 2-hour lecture. But please no. Don't tell Mom. Do you have any idea what it's like when she gives that look of pure disappointment? I swear big bro, she stares directly into my soul and judges me, he began to beg, hoping his mother wouldn't hear about what he did. Jagatai winces. Fulgrim covers his face. Magnus, oh no. Fukin, the dreaded mother of anger. Robot, flashbacks to Yuden's punishments. Big bro. Please no. The last time she even made me meditate for hours. Then I had to stand in the corner. I am way too old for. Sicarius quickly held up a hand. Far too much detail, my liege, far too much, you have made your point. Thank you, big bro, thank you, last time I was sore for a week. You need to be careful, my liege. Chided Sicarius once more, even as he gave a surprisingly gentle pat on Aegidius' head. Now, I do believe the milk rations are stocked up more than they should be. The family didn't actually see the captain's face, as due to Aegidius' short stature, the holocam appeared to only be able to capture Sicarius from the chest downwards, though they did notice the captain's distinguishable helmet mag locked to his thigh. Gilliman, rations for milk? But Agri-World Herba should be relatively nearby. I really don't like where this is going. Does that mean we can have ice cream? Asked Aegidius, a hopeful look on the child's face, even as a surprising chuckle was heard from the captain. Only if you promise to be good from now on. I will. I promise. No more daemons, I'm going to focus and do my homework and train and dash. Fukin, he is but the cutest little mutant. Gilliman, I don't know whether to be offended or not, but I am far too inclined to agree with you to be angry at that statement. Emperor, indeed, absolutely adorable. Magnus, just wait until he gets to puberty. Emperor, what was that, young man? Magnus, nothing, nothing at all. A chuckle was heard from the captain in growing volume as Aegidius continued to give reasons as to how good he would be. Your strategy is sound, little brother. Come. Sicarius held out an armored hand. Let us go find some ice cream. Yay! Yelled Aegidius, even as he quickly took the captain's hand and they walked off screen, even as one of them apparently pressed the button to stop recording. Emperor, well, that's that, I suppose. Rogel, father. There is more. Emperor, wait, what? But the message is over. Rogel, there is more. The VID would have shut off into a black screen, but it has not. And this was true, the VID continued on. The feed fuzzed into what appeared to be a security holocam of the corridor. There were various other people and servitors walking about, but down the middle quickly padded Aegidius, holding onto Sicarius' hand and occasionally lifting himself on it, giggling as they went. Occasionally, he would lift his little brother higher, bringing whoops of joy from the child. Sicarius' footsteps were tiny in comparison to the tread of a usual space marine. And on the captain's face, was a big dumb grin. Robot, it's actually kind of nice to see both Aegidius and even Sicarius actually enjoying themselves. Lion, why doesn't he just carry him? They'd obviously get to their destination quicker if they just stop wasting time. Fukin, I would not call that wasting time, my brother. They are just having fun. Sanguinius, having fun, every now and then, does wonders for morale, you know. Emperor, it's kind of comical to see a space marine taking such care to slow down and just have fun. I wonder why. I suppose the crusade doesn't leave much time to themselves to just slow down and enjoy their time. The feed buzzed over to another cam, to what appeared to be a storage warehouse. The two figures walked over to a box labeled Goods and Morale, and Sicarius pried open the sealed box, pulling out a tiny container of ice cream and giving it to a very jumped up Aegidius. Aegidius appeared to say something to the captain, which made Sicarius smile again, even as the boy sat down on a small crate, and using the tiny attached spoon, began to eat the ancient treat. He stopped midway to his mouth and appeared to offer some to the captain, who reluctantly denied the treat and instead sat on a crate of his own, unlocking the plasma pistol at his thigh and beginning to check the weapon for any issues. Robot, yeah, now I can see it. He definitely is my son. Fukin, you would definitely instill a humbleness into him. Angren, you? Humble? That's a fucking laugh. Robot, I can be, you know. And I would want my children to know to both be humble and giving. And from what I can see, there isn't much to share. Aegidius ate his tiny serving of ice cream in about a minute and then looked up at Sicarius again, who was now in the process of fine-tuning the plasma pistol. The boy uttered something which appeared to surprise the captain, but then Sicarius reluctantly nodded and removed the plasma cell of the pistol before handing it over to the tiny princeling. He placed it very gently into both of Aegidius' outstretched hands and let go very slowly, only for Aegidius to be almost instantly knocked over by the weight, prevented from falling only by the captain grabbing onto the collar of his jacket. The plasma pistol too was saved in the last instant, Sicarius sweeping it up with his other hand. Aegidius sat back down on his crate with a sad look on his face and appeared to mutter something. The captain knelt in front of him and put the plasma pistol onto his lap while saying something that caused a grin to appear on the child's face. Even as curious, tiny hands roamed over the entire pistol, tracing every bit of artifice on the weapon even as Sicarius pointed to various buttons and switches, appearing to explain how it worked. Aegidius then attempted to lift it again only to not be able to even really nudge the heavy weapon, but instead of getting frustrated he seemed to emit a laugh, one matched by the captain even as the VID cut to black. The VID was finally over, the screen black and nothing else was showing up. Mugos Lame began the rites of cleaning and so on, while the family just absorbed that final scene in the storehouse. "He really is a sweet child, isn't he?" Sanguinius spoke up, feeling fuzzy from the last moment. Robert nodded, a smile gracing his face as he thought back to not just this VID, but the rest of them. He was embarrassed to feel the overwhelming urge to respond to a VID of the future, and how much he wanted to know about this boy. It was shocking, and at times frightening on how much he cared in such a short time. This might be how parents usually feel? He really is. Despite how clumsy, how much of a whirlwind of destruction he can be and how he seems to fumble through his studies. I honestly don't care. He's a good kid and I'm proud of him.